How's it going, guys? We're back, and we're going to be talking about the aftermath of WWE SummerSlam 2019. Now, these are just some predictions. These are just some recommendations for where I think the storylines can go, or for where I think they should go. And we're gonna get right into it. We're gonna start off with Becky Lynch. Now with Becky, obviously you can do the cliche thing. You can throw back with Lacey Evans, and we all kind of know how that's gonna go. Lacey is one of the more hotter divas on the Raw roster right now, so if she gets another opportunity, I wouldn't be too shocked because, like I said, she's definitely one of the divas with more popularity behind her now. Or, you could put Becky with somebody like Alexa Bliss. Alexa right now is a women's tag team champion, so, but at the same time, I wouldn't mind seeing her in a rivalry with Becky Lynch. I think it just would make for entertaining television, and it would just be nice to see them two go at it. Or my idea is with Becky Lynch, you can kind of throw in the wild card. What if you have Becky Lynch versus Zelina Vega? Now hear me out. Zelina Vega, she hasn't had a lot of matches, and she works the manager position, but build her up. You know what I'm saying? Let's have some kind of like championship tournament. Let's have maybe even a battle royal, something to build her up, and potentially in these next weeks really get some heat under her as a bad diva, as a bad girl. I think that would be really interesting to see, just kind of like one of those wild card plays. Becky Lynch versus Zelina Vega. It could happen for the Women's Championship. Think about it. I don't see it happening. The Alexa Bliss and the Lacey Evans are way more of a guaranteed thing, but at the same time, these are all just recommendations. So, kind of next for Dolph Ziggler. For Dolph Ziggler, man, I'm not gonna talk about Goldberg because I don't care what Goldberg does next. I really don't. But in terms of Dolph Ziggler, everybody wants to see him have the match with Shawn, but it's still way too early. At the least, they would probably have that at Survivor Series or even the Royal Rumble. But I mean, that's a WrestleMania type of build match right there, and that's a ways right now. So I just don't see really, Dolph could do some entertaining television, maybe with Kevin, or maybe even with Shane McMahon, somehow trying to get like a better position, or just working an angle like that, like trying to get a better opportunity. I think that would be interesting. Obviously, he could work with Miz. Miz isn't doing anything right now, and Ziggler and Miz have always put on good matches in the past. I'd rather see him work with Miz because, like I said, I really don't want to see Shane doing anything anymore on television besides just being a general manager and just fulfilling that manager position. So maybe Ziggler versus Miz, but the dream from this point on for Ziggler is to kind of see him in that match with Shawn Michaels. And if we do get that match, it's probably not going to be for a while. I expect at least Survivor Series or Royal Rumble, at the very least. Next up for AJ Styles. I do see AJ Styles and Ricochet continuing their rivalry because obviously, with the whole Bullet Club attackings and them kind of like ambushing Ricochet, it's all gonna come together eventually. And in the end, I see them putting the title back on Ricochet because AJ is just gonna put himself in the main event picture again. And the club right now are the tag team champions, so they're in a pretty good place. I don't see this rivalry carrying out much longer. I hope it doesn't because they've already kind of had like 3-4 matches. And I feel like the match they had at SummerSlam is going to be one of the last. They're probably going to have like 1 or 2 more matches after this. And in those 2 matches, like I said, I expect them to put the United States Championship on Ricochet and AJ to kind of just go his own way after that, into the main event picture at least. For the next superstar we're going to be talking about is Bayley and the SmackDown Women's Championship. Now, you know, the no-brainer in this one is that Bayley's just gonna go in and pretty much face Charlotte. Like, Charlotte's pretty much in the main event picture at this point. She's just coming off of a win with Trish, and Bayley really doesn't have anybody to go against in the main event right now. I was going to recommend either Carmella or Mandy Rose. Carmella for one because she's a former women's champion at least, and she's been really entertaining lately. So you got two good qualities right there. You know, Bayley and Carmella would just kind of, I feel like it would kind of make for entertaining TV because Bayley knows how to be entertaining and Carmella knows how to be entertaining. So might not be the worst rivalry. Bayley versus Mandy Rose, I would just like to see Mandy Rose have better opportunity and kind of build her up more as one of those bad girls, like I said, the heel, if you will. Just kind of build her up to be that villain and kind of, you know, getting her to that role, getting her to that main event picture. I think that's important. So, obviously the no-brainer, though, is it's going to be Bayley versus Charlotte for the SmackDown Women's Championship next. The next superstar we're going to be discussing is Kevin Owens. Now, considering that Kevin Owens just came off of a whole Shane McMahon victory, and the match kind of like ended in a controversial way or whatever, I just kind of, you know, like I said, I hope I don't see Shane McMahon in any more matches from this point. He's definitely going to be a part of television. But I do see Kevin Owens having matches with, say, Drew McIntyre or Elias, you know, Shane McMahon's proxies, if you will, because that's just what I expect to follow this match that they had together at SummerSlam. That's really the only place I see Kevin going right now. I mean, he just had a whole main event opportunity against Kofi, so I don't think he's gonna get that again anytime soon, really. So it's probably just gonna be matches against Shane McMahon's proxies at this point. Next up, obviously, you know, Charlotte and coming off of the victory she had against Trish Stratus at SummerSlam. Charlotte, at this point, I just expect to see her in the main event. Like, usually Charlotte's always in the main event, and it's kind of hard to picture Charlotte doing anything besides the main event, right? Like, usually she just doesn't have one-on-one matches just to have them anymore. So that's why I expect Charlotte and Bayley to be next in line for the SmackDown Women's Championship. Next up, we're talking about Kofi Kingston and Randy Orton for the WWE Championship. Their match at SummerSlam pretty much ended controversially. People were really upset about it. If you go watch my review, I talk about it. And the way the match ended, though, you could tell that the rivalry is definitely not over. There's still a lot of animosity between them. There's a lot of heat between them. You know, the match ended the way that it did as an attempt for the writers to try to continue the story or try to milk more out of the story. So, will Randy Orton ever win the championship again? Who knows? But I do expect this rivalry to go for a little bit more. I expect them to at least have some type of hardcore match or a no holds barred match. It might even go into Hell in a Cell where they have a Hell in a Cell match, you know, that's really entertaining, and just, you know, Randy Orton is very brutal in those kind of matches, so that maybe they're trying to build it up towards something like that even. But yeah, the rivalry definitely isn't over between them. Not the greatest match they had at SummerSlam. People were really pissed about it, and including myself, so yeah, they're gonna keep the rivalry going. I already know. Next up, Bray Wyatt. So Bray Wyatt from this point, after taking out Finn Balor, you know, he's obviously not gonna be in a rivalry with Finn anymore because Finn's gone. Finn's gonna take his time. But really, I would like to honestly see Bray Wyatt versus Sami Zayn. I think that would kind of be entertaining. Bray Wyatt versus Samoa Joe, or even Bray Wyatt versus The Miz. Considering I like the Dolph Ziggler and The Miz idea a bit more, I think, you know, if you put Bray Wyatt with somebody like Sami Zayn or Samoa Joe right now, you know, guys that are pretty hot and have some heat behind them, you know, some charisma behind their character. I just think that's going to benefit Bray Wyatt in the end a little bit more. You know, these are guys, too, that can go out there and have some interesting matches with this kind of character. So, just something to think about. Considering that Finn Balor isn't even going to be around anymore, I know a lot of people are really wondering what Bray Wyatt's going to do next. And my best advice to the company, drop the whole Roman Reigns and Samoa Joe angle. And maybe think about going Bray Wyatt and Samoa Joe. Maybe even in like a match that Samoa Joe and Roman Reigns have together. Have Bray Wyatt, you know, have the lights go out and just have Bray Wyatt out there and ambush one of them. Even if it's Roman or Samoa Joe at this point. Like, it would get over really good, I think. So that's the next step, I think, for Bray Wyatt and the Fiend character, is to just find a rivalry to squeeze into somehow and like kind of make people go like, you know, it'll catch people off guard, like it'll shock them, you know, especially in something like Samoa Joe and Roman right now, where Roman's kind of trying to decide, you know, who's been attacking him and this and that. I'm not saying, you know, make it be that Bray Wyatt was the attacker all along, or, you know, was playing that role all along. I would just like to see Bray Wyatt slide his way into the rivalry somehow, you know, even if at the end of the day Roman was the attacker, or not Roman being the attacker, but, you know, if Samoa Joe attacked Roman, or Buddy Murphy, Rowan, who the fuck knows, right? Either way, just have Bray Wyatt go out there and attack Samoa Joe. Or even like Sami Zayn, like I said. I think that would be really cool. And then last but not least, guys, we're going to talk about Seth Rollins and the Universal Championship. Now, the rule in WWE now is there's no rematch after you lose the championship. So, considering that Brock Lesnar lost and he doesn't have a Money in the Bank contract, nothing right now qualifies him for a rematch because he lost fair and square. I really hope that this is the end of Brock. I really don't enjoy seeing Brock, especially in the main event picture. People have been getting kind of like stale with the Seth Rollins character. Like Seth Rollins has kind of been like he's just kind of like been falling off a little bit in terms of popularity with the crowd, because it's so hard to work angles with Brock, and it's so hard to get your character over when you're performing a storyline and you're working a storyline with somebody who's not even there half the time. And when Brock is there, he usually comes out there at the start of the show and he stands around for like 5 minutes so he can fucking suplex guys and have Paul Heyman pretty much talk for him. You know, so it's just ridiculous. If you put Seth Rollins in the main event picture now, you know, at least put him with somebody on the roster who's going to be there. That way we can see the storyline develop week in, week out. You know, that's what the people want. I don't care about seeing Brock in the main event no more. I've told people time after time, you can sell the same amount of tickets if Brock Lesnar wasn't there or if he wasn't champion. So that's just something to think about, WWE. Don't put him in the main event no more. It's not fucking good matches. Honestly, I'm getting tired of watching Universal Championship matches as the main event, and I kind of know what to expect. I expect them to be garbage matches. That's why the Universal Championship was first at WrestleMania this year, because they're just garbage matches at this point. At least if you put Seth with some of these options that I'm going to say now, some of these names, you know, it'll make for better quality entertainment. It'll make for better quality matches. So some of the guys to think about putting Seth and the Universal Championship with right now, obviously when you look at the main event picture, you're going to bring up guys like Braun and Bobby Lashley. Those are the first two that stand out the most besides Baron Corbin. Baron Corbin's already kind of had his shot, I feel like, and they've kind of already done that angle, and Baron Corbin and Seth really aren't that entertaining together to me, I feel like. Like, Baron's alright, but he's really not main event quality, I feel like. Especially Universal Champion quality. to see Seth versus somebody like Braun or Bobby, you know, obviously we've seen, you know, what he's capable of working with Brock, so I think if he works matches with Braun or Bobby, you know, he'd be able to pull off something special, and it might even be something great. But I even have a wild card option for the Universal Championship, and this might sound crazy, but it's a fucking idea. Seth Rollins versus Robert Roode for the Universal Championship. I know, it's fucking wild. It's out there. Robert Roode has basically hasn't really done much of anything lately besides change his name from Bobby Roode to Robert Roode. Worked that god awful tag team with who was it? Justin Gabriel or Chad Gable, whatever that man's name is. Worked that god awful tag team with him. So I don't know. It would be interesting because I know the type of athlete and the competitor that Robert Roode is. So it would just be nice to see him get that opportunity. But now that I think about it, maybe put Bray Wyatt with Seth Rollins. You know, maybe that's where they go from here. Maybe they just do a Seth Rollins and a Bray Wyatt angle for the Universal Championship, and somehow, you know, that whole rivalry and that whole thing ties into like Hell in a Cell or something like that. Who knows? Tons of possibilities now, and there's tons of options following up on SummerSlam, and that's a good thing about it. So these were just a few predictions, a few recommendations too for the WWE, and you know, just some insight on the events following SummerSlam 2019. If you guys haven't heard my review on SummerSlam 2019, you can go watch that and find out what I think about the show in its entirety. I go through each and every match on the card, and I also talk about things that I wish were done differently, so please go check out that review if you haven't. SummerSlam 2019. And this is going to be the aftermath of SummerSlam 2019, guys. So I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll be catching you guys next time.